Next on Opening Statements.
Maybe if whoever did this is dead, maybe someone that knows that they did it can, help with that. I don't know. Someone knows.
You recognize her, right? That's Krista Ramey. She's the niece of a woman who was murdered 40 years ago. It happened at her aunt's front door while she was in her pajamas, and she's pleading now for the public for answers to this cold case. We'll talk about it next. And testimony in Adam Montgomery's case could begin today. We know his estranged wife, Kayla, is set to take the stand against him. So will her testimony tip the scales of justice? This morning, we're shining a spotlight on a niece who is pleading for answers nearly 40 years after the murder of her aunt. 42-year-old Georgia Haggai was shot to death in her home back in March of 1986. And while police believe the nature of her death indicates the motive was something personal, no one has ever been arrested for her murder. For more on this tragic case, Natalie Chuck with Scripps News San Diego reports.
It was March 31st, 1986.
About 5 o'clock in the morning, several phone calls came into the San Diego Police Department reporting shots fired.
Tony Johnson is a retired senior investigator for the San Diego County District Attorney's Office. Police reports from that morning say the front door to the house was open. Officers could see a person lying inside, face down on the carpet of the living room floor, and a dog barking viciously standing over the body. That body was Georgia's.
When the door opened and she was shot, the killer shot her once in the chest and then stepped inside the doorway and shot her a second time, basically contact wound to the back of the head.
What does a shooting like that say about the possible motive?
Well, it's clearly an execution because it's not an accidental shooting. It's not an anger shooting. It's somebody who thought about it and deliberately targeted Georgia to kill her.
Let's bring in a very special guest now. You'll recognize her. She's a trial attorney, a friend of Court TV, one of our regular analysts, and she's also Georgia Haggai's niece, Krista Ramey, on the show. Krista, good morning to you. Oh boy, let's start with the investigation, if we can, please. We are so sorry, the loss of your aunt. This has to be really tough, even 40 years, the pain never goes away. So where are we now with solving the puzzle?
It's interesting. And thank you for spotlighting this, Julie. My family is very, very grateful. I'm very grateful. I think that, recently we got in contact with the cold case kind of came up again for us because we were contacted by Natalie Chuck. She was trying to reach my father and went to school with my daughter at University of South Carolina. And it was just a very, strange, I was like, why is a reporter from San Diego? And then it just dawned on me. I'm like, oh, wait, that's because of my aunt. There's something's happening. There's some movement. And that's what I hoped, at least. But they are spotlighting cold cases down there and with a lot of success. And this case now has moved from the police department cold case unit to the DA's office cold case unit, which makes me hopeful for some reason. I also think it's unusual for the district attorney's office and for police to talk to reporters. As you know, that's not very common when it comes to a case that has not been solved. And that also tells me that they really do want the public's help to find whoever did this to my aunt.
Yes, and hopefully the public will give them that help. Hopefully talking about this does something to create more movement, Krista. You have said that there were some details in the case that lead you to believe that maybe this was someone known to your aunt. And one of the big facts that sticks out, of course, is no signs of forced entry. Would you share your thoughts on that? Because, of course, you're a very savvy trial attorney. So, of course, I'm sure your legal mind plays into this very personal endeavor to get justice for your beautiful aunt.
And that, she's 100% the reason why I'm a lawyer, by the way. I went to law school because I wanted to help people get that kind of justice, right? And I think that we have always known in our hearts that it was either one of two people or someone helping one of two people with this. And that that has been confirmed for us. That's who the suspects are, the prime suspects are, as far as the police have been concerned this whole time. But there's just not that physical evidence connecting them. But we know that it was someone that my aunt would open up her door to at 5 a.m. And you don't open up a door at 5 a.m. to someone you don't know. And that's when she was shot through the screen door. So, her dog wasn't barking then, and it was a German Shepherd, very protective of her. The police had to tranquilize the dog when they got to the house to recover her body. So we also believe that had to have been another clue that it was someone who was very close to Georgia. And so we have our suspicions about who it is as a family, and it was someone that she used to know very well. And I don't want to I'm trying to be very cautious about what I say in terms of who we believe it is, but it's someone that she was very, very close with at one point in time, and that did not like the way that their friendship or relationship was working out, and took these kinds of matters into their own hands. And it's usually, we just saw a clip while I was waiting to come on about, domestic violence and domestic partner violence. And, it's always, the first place you look is someone close to you, right? It's just kind of what we know. So, yeah, our family has looked at someone close to us for this whole time.
Krista, can you tell us, is it one person that your family may have suspicions of, or multiple people?
We think, well, my grandmother to the day she died believed it was this woman that I'm talking about. My dad believed something different maybe. But we always felt that it was someone that was very close to her. But what I've learned, after Marcy's Law, investigators will share a lot more with family than they did in the past. And we know now that there was probably a getaway car, someone waiting, because what the witnesses heard was, the dog, shots fired, saw someone running, couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, basically someone in a hoodie running down the cul-de-sac, and then immediately car pulling out. So they believe that there was probably someone in a getaway car. And that's kind of where I think there is something important to say, that someone knows something. And so hopefully they'll speak up and, after all this time, and help us.
Yes, Krista, hoping so. Tell us, please, if you could speak to your aunt's killer, what would you say?
I would say, time's up. It's time to come clean and let our family have that peace of knowing that, her justice is done for Georgia.
Justice for Georgia. Absolutely, Krista. Krista, thank you for sharing all of this. We know this isn't easy. It's not. And even nearly 40 years later, the pain doesn't lessen. But please know that your aunt would be so proud of you, and you're continuing her legacy and all the great work you're doing in the legal profession. So thank you for sharing all of this, and please let us know if you hear of any developments, and we will share this segment and hopefully get some. Krista, thank you again. Take care.
Thank you so much, Julie.